Hello everyone. In this video I'll be running through Xaya Analytics, which is a plugin or a module for Xaya Photo. And we'll be doing that right after this. Alright, thanks for sticking with me. I hope you're having a great day everyone. So in this video we'll be looking at Xaya Analytics, which is a plugin for Xaya Photo. Now I've done a run through of Xaya Photo in another video, so I'd suggest you watch that. But very briefly, Xaya Photo is a photo cataloging software which uses machine learning to automatically tag your photos based on content, style, and a whole range of other things. And by style, I mean, does it have leading lines? Is it a colorful photo or colorless, i.e. monochrome? And a whole range of other parameters. And it does that locally, so it doesn't use cloud services. Now, an add-on to Xaya Photo is called Xaya Analytics, and that's what we'll be looking at in this video. It's a paid add-on for Xaya Photo, and the whole point of Xaya Analytics is to look at the information that it has on your specific photos and allow you to visualize that. Now, it does this based on the metadata in the photo as well as how it's been tagged and a whole range of other things. And it then allows you to visualize across a whole range of different chart types, but also to visualize a lot of different elements. Now, I can start by visualizing something like what cameras have I used? And then I can also filter. So I can say, for example, since the 1st of 2021, in this scenario I'll say. So I'm going to put a filter on to say since the 1st of January 2021, which cameras have I used? Now, what you'll see is it then narrows down and it says, okay, Nikon, Apple, Samsung, and so on. It gives you an idea of what cameras you've used and it allows you to graph that in a different way. Now, there are a whole range of different parameters that you can look at. So in this scenario here, I've looked at camera, but we can look at something like the lens model, what's the aperture, the exposure time, the ISO, what's the group to focal length, keywords, and a whole range of other parameters. And it then gives us stats based on what's in the catalog in Xaya Photo and those parameters. So in this example, I'm having a look at a chart type of pie. I'm looking at the main attribute of camera since the 1st of January 2021. And what I can see is that, 34% of the photos that I've taken have been with my iPhone. Nikon D610 is about 22%, and then my Sony is about 20%, give or take. Now this makes sense because the Sony I haven't had for a long time, and of course the best camera you've got is the one you've got on you, so quite often I take photos with my iPhone. Now I can look at a whole range of other parameters though, and I can look at them in different ways. So I can look at the same parameter, but I can say, okay, show me a stack, which then shows, again, the same information, but it shows it in a different way. I can show a horizontal bar, and again, iPhone, Nikon, and so on. Now, this is showing, in this case, up to 9 elements, but I could also say, only show me the top 3 things that I use, and it will then narrow down to the top 3 cameras. Now, camera is just one parameter. Like I said, I could look at lens model as well. And in this scenario here, it's showing my iPhone, my iPad, and then the 28 to 75 millimeter lens that I commonly use with my Sony camera. I know that I use my iPhone and my iPad a lot, but maybe I want to know information specifically just about my mirrorless or DSLR. So what I can do is I can actually filter. So I can filter by metadata and say, only show me my Sony. And now it'll narrow it down and it'll say, okay, the 3 lenses that I use most commonly are about 37%, the 25 to 75, sorry, the 28 to 75 millimeter. About 32% is the 70 to 300, and then about 30% is my 150 millimeter f2.8 macro. So it gives a lot of useful information. And like I said, you can narrow this down a lot more. So, you know, I've narrowed down by date range and I've narrowed down by camera, but maybe I want to narrow down by what country the photo was taken in, if that's in the metadata, or a whole range of other parameters. And again, I can say, let's look at this in a different way. So I tend to prefer this kind of pie chart because it gives a better visualization. But if you're using certain charts like bar vertical, for example, you can actually say, show me the value in here. So at the moment, this is showing percentage, but I might want to actually know, okay, instead of the percentage, I want to actually know the number. So I can say that I've taken 213 photos with the 28 to 75 millimeter and 187 with the 70 to 300 millimeter. Now, one thing that's really cool about this as well is that you can actually show multiple parameters. So I can start to say, and now this depends on the chart that you're using. So generally for this, you're going to need to use something like a stack. But I can say, show me the lens model. And the second attribute might be, show me the ISO. And now what this says is, okay, well, for this 28 to 75 millimeter, I've taken 197 photos at 640 ISO, compared to 800 ISO for 9 photos and so on. And I can still change the parameters, so that's raw, like raw numbers, but I can change this to percent. So I can start to see that, you know, my 150 millimeter macro, more often than not, I shoot at 2000 ISO. And my 70 to 300, more often than not, I shoot at 1600 ISO. Now, these are just some parameters. Some of the interesting ones that I find though are things like keywords. So keywords starts to pull out information basically from the tagging that it's done of your photo. And I can start to say, okay, show me keywords relevant to lens model. So, you know, I can see that 13% of the photos that I've taken that are tagged with animal are using the 70 to 300. And about 24% of the photos that I've taken are using the 150 millimeter macro that I've tagged with animal. Now this is a very messy graph. Now I can again change this to something like a donut or a pie, and this will show me what the keywords are specifically. And this is showing up to 155 keywords, but it will show me things like about 42% of current photos have the tag animal in them. Now, 155 is obviously crazy. I don't want that many. So I might say, show me the top 20 keywords. And now it narrows this down to say, all right, most of the photos have been tagged as animal, nature, unsaturated, bright, and so on. So you can see it gives a lot of useful information, and it can be single parameters or multiple parameters. Now, some people might be asking, okay, you can see a lot of the parameters of your photos. Where is that useful? Or why is that useful for that matter? Now, I can give you a couple of scenarios where I think this might be useful. Let's say I'm not taking as many photos as I want, and maybe I've drifted out of photography a little bit, and I think, hey, maybe it's time to get rid of some of my gear. I could filter by lens model, and I could start to see, okay, which lenses don't I use very often? And I can see from here, okay, this 17 to 70 millimeter I don't use very often. Maybe I could sell that. you know, maybe if one of my lenses breaks, I could look at it and say, was this a lens that I used really often? And you probably know this anyway, but you know, let's say you didn't. You could look here and say, all right, well, my 28 to 75 millimeter did die. It's one of the ones I use, you know, more than 35% of the time. I should probably change it. Or, you know, maybe I want to upgrade to a similar focal length. I can use this as well. Now, that's been about buying lenses or selling lenses, but one of the other things as well might be if you want to challenge yourself. So you might say, okay, I want to do a 52 photo project where I take a new photo a week. And maybe my challenge is I want to use the lens that I never really use and push myself to try and take great photos with that lens. So I can look at this and I can say, okay, well, you know, the smallest number of photos I've taken is with the 17 to 70 or maybe the 150 to 600. So for this project, I'm going to push myself to use that lens. And this gives you that information to allow you to actually do that. And then it also shows you the photos down the bottom that it's basically used to, you know, calculate this. Now, I can filter by, you know, star ratings, color ratings, keywords, metadata, which I've spoken about, but I can also save as a PDF. So I can take this and I can say, you know, I want to export this as lenses. And I'm going to export this as a PDF. And then I've now got this saved as a PDF that I can use. I can then open up this lenses PDF and I can start to share this with other people. So maybe people are asking, oh, hey, you know, what do you take the most photos of? You can save as a PDF and send that off. So I think that is a really useful function if you want to share this with other people. So I hope this has been useful. The add-on for Xaya Photo is really about helping people get statistics on their photos that they can then use to work out what lenses do and don't I use very often, what cameras do and don't I use very often, do I take a certain type of photo more often than another, and it brings all of this statistical information into an easily visualized format. Now, I haven't gone through every single component of Xaya Analytics, but I hope this has given you a bit of an idea on what it is and where it might be useful. If you've got any questions, please feel free to ask them in the comments below. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just wanna keep moving. Yeah, I put out all this art, it's my only medicine. Yeah, everything I do, I'm just being genuine. Yeah, I'm sick of